for joining us live on Instagram today. So I'm Hannah and I'm from Flying Fish Studio in Sheffield, and today we are going on discovering colours, which is part of our future endeavours over the next 5 weeks. Lovely to see that people are joining already. That's really nice. So yes, this is our first session out of 5, and it'll probably be between 15 to 30 minutes, our little workshop today, and we'll be combining art and science. So the two are interlinked so well. Art often involves a lot of science, and science can create beautiful pieces of art. If you want to comment at all, hopefully I'll be able to see. It's lovely to see that so many are joining. So today what we're going to be doing is using our felt tip markers and water and coffee filter paper, and that's pretty much it. You can try using paper towels as well. Doesn't work quite as well, so if you have coffee filter papers, that's great, but if not, try using a paper towel. So here are some examples of what we can be creating, but then we'll be turning these into pieces of art. Okay, so here are a couple of examples, and I'll talk us through this process now. So for this workshop, I'll go through what we need. So we need some felt tip markers. You don't need as many as these. I found that these work really well, but some markers work better than others. So you need non-permanent markers for this. And then I've got some coffee filter paper. So it's good to have white, just because the colour shows up a little bit more on white coffee filter paper. We'll need a glass of water. Okay, I filled it fairly near the top. I've also got a jug of water by me, just in case I need to fill it up a little bit more. And then optional is a ruler, a black biro, and a glue stick, and a pair of scissors as well. So let's get started. If I go a little bit too fast, then do comment, but also I'll be posting this video on afterwards, so don't worry if you miss any of it, and you'll be able to watch it all through again. So what we need is, we're going to start by taking a coffee filter paper. And now yours may be round, or yours might be like an odd shape like mine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a square out of my coffee filter paper. It can be quite a rough square because we can neaten it up after. So I've just got a square of coffee filter paper now. Now, when you're using felt tip pens, when you make a mark on paper, the water starts to evaporate, and so the ink dries. Because felt tips, they contain coloured pigments and water. So I've got all my colours here. Now, some colours work better than others, so you'll want to experiment with which ones work better, which ones don't work as well. I know for sure that normally black ones work really well. So I'm going to start by using a black felt tip pen. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line just above the bottom of my filter paper. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll lift it up so you can see. Okay. So the coffee filter paper is porous, so that means it's got small holes in it for things to pass through. So in this case, for water to pass through. And the water moves up the filter paper because of something called capillary action. So capillary action is the movement of water within the spaces of porous materials. So what we're going to do is, I'm just lifting it up so you can see, but you can leave it on the table. I'm just going to dip this coffee filter paper into the water so that the water goes just below the line. Okay, so I'll do that now. And you'll start to see that the different colours that make up the ink start to travel at different rates. So they start to separate. So I'm just holding it here. If you have made some kind of contraption to keep it here, maybe a peg or something, then you can try that so you don't need to hold it. But I find it easier just to hold it and admire the amazing colours that start to appear. Hopefully you can see it. If you're doing it live at home, hopefully you'll be able to see the amazing colours that may start to arise. But here I can see so it started off the black line. We've got pinks, we've got purples, we've got this really, really bright blue. So how fast the different pigments travel up depends on the size of the pigment molecule and also how strongly the pigment is attracted to the paper. So black's made up of lots of different pigments, and so they're all travelling at different rates, and it's amazing because we've started off with just a black line and then adding this bit of water. Here we have almost what looks to me like a piece of watercolour art. And you can take it out whenever you like. Because there's still water here, there'll still be the water travelling up the paper. So you'll see this line, although it's down here now, it will probably start to reach the top actually. It'll still continue to travel up and up and up. So there are lots of variables that you can change with this art experiment. It may be that you want to take it out earlier, in which case you'll have the line further down. Maybe that you want to leave it in until the colour has reached right at the top. But then once we've finished with this piece, I've just got a piece of card here, and I'm just going to lay it on my piece of card. Okay, just to dry out. And then I'm going to try some different colours. What I've got here, which I showed briefly at the beginning, is lots of different examples of the coffee filter paper, but with next to it is the colour of ink that I started with. And I do this because, just like in science, in art, if you do something and you really like what you've done, but you've completely forgotten how you made it. Now, don't worry, I've done this loads actually. I've made something, I thought, wow, that's amazing, and completely forgotten. But if you do record it, which I often do now, I've learned, it'll mean that you can repeat it again. So you're not having to search through all of your colours thinking, which colour did I use to create this amazing piece of art? And as you can see with the black, it'll be quite hard to predict just from looking at that it was the black colour. These two colours here, just the inks themselves are really, really similar, but you can see they create quite different colours once the pigments, so the colours in the pen have separated. Same on this one here, they look really similar, but here they're quite different. They're made up of quite different pigments. So what I'd encourage us to do now is just keep experimenting with your pens. If some of your pens don't work, then it's okay, and try some different pens that you have around your home. So I'm going to do it again, especially for people that are just joining at the moment. So I've got my coffee filter paper. I'm cutting out a square, and and then I'm drawing a line along the bottom. What you can do is, instead of just drawing the one line, you could draw a few lines and then the colours will merge into each other. Again, for those that have just joined now, we're creating pieces of art using coffee filter paper and felt tip pens to create things like this. Okay, you can do whatever doodles you like on it though. I just really like plants, so that's why I've drawn plants on them. If you have any questions, I can see things popping up, so do just ask. And if I don't get a chance now, I'll make sure I answer them afterwards. So this piece here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a few different lines, maybe a few centimetres apart on here. So I might do a brown, kind of a purple. This is what the colours are at the moment, they'll probably totally change. And a dark green. So here we are. Do make sure that you're doing this on some paper as well, because the ink sometimes comes through the coffee filter paper. So make sure you've got a table which doesn't mind getting marked. Well, basically if you pop a cover over, or even some newspaper. So now we've got this here. Again, I'm going to pop it in my glass of water and I'm going to hold it there. And I'm going to start to see the different pigments in the ink separating and rising up the paper. Now you may have done something similar to this in science. So this is a form of chromatography. That's the posh name for it. And all that means is it's made up of two Greek words, chroma, which means colour, and graph. Okay, graph means writing. So, writing with colour. So you can see the colours here are blurring into each other. I think I'm going to experiment a lot more with this even after our session has ended today, because you really can create some amazing pieces of art that look quite complicated to make. And all you've done is, well, I say all you've done actually, it can be quite a skill recording all of the colours, making sure that you know which ones create which colours. But essentially we're drawing 3 lines and then getting some amazing art through science. So here, I'm going to take it out now. Good, it will continue to rise a little bit more. Here we go. At the moment, your coffee filter paper might be quite translucent, so it means that you can see through it a little bit. Once it dries, it will become more opaque again. So here, the one that I did a few minutes ago, you can see it's actually risen all the way to the top now. So there's lots of variables in this, depending on the colours you use, depending on how long you keep it in there for, how many lines you do. There's another thing as well that we can experiment with, and that is to place the water in a different place. So what I mean by that is, for example, with this piece here, okay, instead of the water coming up from the bottom and then you have the lines of colour which come up, you can have this type of piece where the water has entered the coffee filter paper through the centre and then spread out. So I'll show us now how we do that. So if you have circular coffee filter papers, then you won't need to cut anything. I need to cut circles out of my ones. So I'm just going to cut a circle. Again, I can always neaten it up after. So there we go. I've got a couple of circles. Now with one of mine, I'm going to roll it up, and this one is almost going to act like a wick. So I'm going to roll it up, doesn't have to be neatly rolled at all, and then create a little point at the end. Okay, I've got my glass of water, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little hole in the centre of this coffee filter paper. So just the easiest way to do this is to fold it in half and do a tiny little slit in the middle, okay? And then with your rolled up squished piece, you can just pop it through the centre so that it sticks through a little bit. And what that's going to do is that's going to carry our water up the centre so that it goes centre first and then spreads out. Okay, so that's what we're going to make. I'm going to draw the colours on here that I want now. So again, I've got my kind of testing sheet that I made before with the colours that I like, so I can see which ones I want on my piece. So I think I'm going to go for some blues and some greens. So you can do it however you like on here. You can do squiggly lines. I'm going to do circular lines, working outwards. So first one, and then I'm going to continue working outwards on these. So second one. And then, ooh, choices. Okay, I think I'm going to go for another green and do a third circle around the outside. They don't need to be that neat, they all blend in together by the end. So here we have it, I've got my hole in the middle. Ooh, which colour's my favourite? Oh, that's tricky. I tend to go for these ones actually, the greens and the blues. I think black's probably the most interesting for me because it changes the most. Be nice to hear which ones, which colours are everyone else's favourite. We each have different tastes and there's no right or wrong. So here we have it. You need to make sure that your water is high enough so that when we pop our paper in here, it does start to soak it up. Now if your coffee paper filter is nice and big, you'll be able to just rest it on here. Mine's not big enough, so I'm going to have to just hold it here for a little bit. You might be able to peg it onto the side, or might be able to just kind of hook it onto the side. So I've just left it on the side here. And I'm going to try and hold it up so you can see some of it. But hopefully if you're doing it at home, you'll be able to see some of the colour spreading already. But it's amazing! So we've started with what was like a light blue turquoise colour, and then it's spreading out into the green and it's all merging together. And then it's gonna get to the dark green soon as well. So I'm just going to hold this up so that we can just see how the colour, so how the pigments are travelling at different rates, and so the colour is separating into all these amazing colours. And then after this, after we've done this, I'm then going to show some examples of how we can then create I guess more finished pieces of art from it. These in themselves are pieces of art, but if you want to create it, say, into cards or anything like that for people, then I'll just do a little demo on how you might like to do that. So it's just reaching the green now, and then it's going to start spreading. I can choose to take this out whenever I like. I'm going to take it out now. Okay. Wow, I love it. Sometimes you'll do them though, and you'll be like, oh, not so keen, and that's absolutely okay. Let you into a little secret, I've tried, these are the colours here that I liked the most, and so that's why I've got them on my sheet here. I did some that I wasn't so keen on, and that's okay. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to leave this on my piece of cards to dry. Lovely. Now, for this last section of the workshop, I'll show you how we could then transform them into cards or any other pieces of art that you would like. So to do this, you'll need to make sure that your pieces have completely dried. So this might be something, whilst I'm talking you through this, you may like to continue experimenting with your colours. But here is one that I have made before, okay? So it's totally dry. I made this one a few days ago. And then you could either use it as a piece of art by itself and just maybe stick it onto some card like this. And then I've got, I like sticking it onto brown card, okay? Or we can actually doodle on top of this. I love doodling, so I'm going to do some doodling, and I'll talk us through quickly how you might like to do something like this. So here I've used this more as a background, okay, and then I've just doodled over the top. Whereas this one here, so I took this one out of the water a little bit earlier. So the colour, I probably took it out when the colour was about down here, so it kept rising that little bit more. And then I thought, wow, that almost looks like a landscape. Okay, so I then just doodled a few little trees on top of this one. So I'm going to use this one here and then doodle a few little plants on it. And to do this, we'll want a biro, so not your felt tip pens because they tend to spread, okay? You'll want a biro and then choose which way up you want it. Make sure it's the shape that you want as well. So I quite like it when I curve the edges, so I'm just going to curve the edges rather than having them pointy. So I've curved the edges here. Choose what I want the top and what I want as the bottom. So I'm going to do it this way up. And then all I'm going to do is doodle on my sheet of paper. You may like to doodle on a scrap piece first before you go on to this. And to do the plants, I'm just going to do some plant pots. You may like to use a ruler for this. So I'm just doing a really simple outline here. Might want the top of a plant pot. I'm going to see if I can direct this a little bit further down so that you can see. Okay. You could choose to pattern your pot. Again, I am just doing this doodle for now, but you really can doodle whatever you would like, okay? So just, here we go. Just doodling on it. It's great because these are so quick to make as well. It means that you can, if one goes wrong, you can just make another one, especially if you've recorded what you've just made. And then you can repeat it. So here we are. Oh, what plants? I might do one of these plants on here. So remember, don't do this now, because it won't have dried your piece. It'll take a little while to dry. Okay. There we go. And then I'm just going to add on the patterns of the leaf. So this is, I've done the really quick one. I would probably spend a bit more time thinking about the actual design that I wanted, etc. I'm going to do a nice thick outline. Here we go. Bottom of the pot as well. Okay, and then I'm just filling in this pattern here. So after I've done this, what I would then do is I would just use some glue stick, use some glue from a glue stick, should I say. So I'm going to glue on the back of here. You can just stick it onto some card straight away. I often like to have a border first, so I'm going to stick my piece onto the border. Haven't finished my piece yet, but this is what I'm going to go with at the moment. I'm going to cut it to the size. Make sure it's stuck on straight. And then I'm going to, on my piece of card, then stick this onto here, and they make beautiful gifts for people, and people will say, how on earth have you done that? And then you'll be able to explain. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed, and if you have any questions at all, do just let me know, either via here or via my Instagram page, Flying Fish Studio. Okay, so yes, it's been really nice that so many people have joined us today, and I hope you've enjoyed. Okay, thank you, bye.